how many people today they know Jesus is coming back, or at least they've heard it their whole life, but they're saying, but we got plenty of time. I've heard that my whole life. My grandmother said it. Nothing's changing. And there's tons of stuff changing. And yet they don't understand that we're living in the last days. Well, I know a man who does understand a little bit about that. Mike from around the world. Mike, are you out there?
Pastor Paul, God bless you. Right here, brother.
All right, brother. It's so good to hear from you. You never know. You might be from out of this world, for all I know. I mean, that's the webinar, right? That's the webinar. Instead of Mike from around the world, it's Mike from out of this world. Okay. Anyway, Mike, the Lord spoke to me today before this broadcast and said, it's the midnight hour. Ask Mike about it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm just going to say, Mike, why would the Lord say to me, it's the midnight hour? What's he trying to say?
I like the reference to Paul and Silas. At midnight hour.
You were listening to me, weren't you? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I like that. The worst circumstance, right? And but they held their faith.
Amen.
They held on to their faith, and they were delivered in an unusual, unbelievable way, right? But they were delivered.
Yeah.
But the key is staying bound in your faith.
Amen.
Right? Because a lot of people right now, things will come about, and it's going to cause people to get a little shifty. You can see that. You can see that already. As the pressure mounts in the world, people will become. They will resort back to what they trust the most. Is someone like this, Pastor Paul, in people's lives, and God gives us a way to gauge our own behavior. And small things, if we disregard our faith, right, in tiny things, we're going to do it in the bigger things.
Oh, yes.
So a good way to gauge one's life is to see what areas of life they lose control in. Any area we don't maintain our faith in is a problem area. And if we can recognize that, is that not God's grace giving us time to get that together? Because greater things are coming. I mean, they're coming quickly, and they're not stopping. And it should be evident to everybody right now that things are changing and nothing is going back to normal.
It's a great warning you're putting out here for us tonight, Mike. Let's talk a little bit about the clock is ticking with Iran. I mean, this isn't just going to tick on forever. I mean, what's about to take place? There's a big buildup of assets militarily. So can you give us an update of where we might be with this?
Well, Pastor Paul, the way it looks right now, these guys are incredibly stubborn. There's some sort of a stubborn spirit in the earth right now. These guys are incredibly stubborn. They, no matter how much of a proposal of peace anybody gives them, these guys, I'm telling you, it's in their blood. It's their way. They want revenge against Israel. They will never part from that. Never. No one can ever make them, get away from that ideology, that mindset. And it will come. The USA and allied forces have to be careful. They cannot assume anything. They're going to have to remain vigilant, because we know in prophecy at some point, and I believe that point is going to be sooner than later. At some point, there are going to be some mishaps in the Middle East, and things will come about. Zephaniah is a good reference for that.
Yes.
When the Lord says that He has, the Lord has prepared a sacrifice, right? And that's when He punishes the princes and the king's children and all such who wear strange apparel. In other words, no matter what any country does, there's going to be hostilities, some situation in the Middle East where the world is going to be involved. And the Lord did say he would gather everybody down there first, right?
That's
We're
right.
seeing that.
Yes. Yes, it
We're
says
seeing
that.
that. No matter what anybody does, they're drawn back to the Middle East. I mean, right back to the Middle East. And now that we have all the armies of the earth in that general vicinity, even Chinese troops are there.
Yeah.
Due to India and Pakistan, all these places, we have Chinese troops in the Middle East now. So we have African troops in the Middle East. We didn't have African troops in the Middle East the last few years. That in the last year and a half, that's when African troops began to join forces
Yeah, they
with
have.
some of the Middle Eastern troops. So now we have everyone there. We
My
did not have that before. And Russia is they're playing a chess game, and I don't believe that the rest of the world is catching on quick enough. Arrogance is going to cost us, the USA. Arrogance is. And we're not talking about any one individual. That's not what we're talking about.
no.
Sometimes we can trust in our own might so much
Mm.
that we are not vigilant in the small areas. If in fact, in life, period, if everybody can reflect upon their own lives, it was never the big thing that got them, that messed up their situation. It was the tiny thing they
Yeah.
overlooked,
The little
right?
foxes that
The
spoil the
tiny
vine.
thing. That's right.
Yeah.
And in this case, the same thing is happening. So we have a buildup beyond belief. It's everybody's in damage control. I know they maintain a sense of a very calm sense in media. Believe me when I tell you, everybody's in a state of damage control, and
Wow.
it's not changing. It's
Wow.
getting worse.
What about this coming June? There's, I think they've moved the date now to June 17th, but Emmanuel Macron is going to Saudi Arabia, and where they're holding a summit. There might be a couple other countries coming there too. I'm not sure. And this is a UN sanctioned summit that has to do with redrawing the borders of Israel and creating a Palestinian state.
They're going to force. They're going to what they have in mind. As I said before, they're going to force. Number one, they're going to disarm Israel.
Okay.
And whatever they do to Israel, they're going to force Israel to do it, period. Right? So we will see some scuffles within Israel. Right now in Israel, inside of Israel's government, there is a clear split. The disagreements have become so strong. They're just as divided as the USA's Democrats and Republicans.
Wow.
Is happening in Israel. It's very dangerous because you know that there are Arabic actors within Israel that will take full advantage of that situation. And so it's about to happen. Smoke will rise from within Israel.
Is there,
and that will be, all an internal thing.
That's not good. Okay, so internally, yes, there is Arab factions in there, no doubt. But is there also a philosophy difference among some of the Jewish politicians
Absolutely.
that believe that appeasement is still the way? I mean,
Absolutely. You have some that will part that land in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
Because you know what? Again, I'll reference back to, when you go back in prophecy, you have people who are corrupt in Jerusalem and surrounding areas that will absolutely part that land.
Yeah.
They'll give their left arm away if they have to, right? So you can see the logic or the truth of our Father. And a lot of people don't understand why Israel has to go up in smoke for a little while. It's because people are in Israel right now who are no good. They shouldn't be in Israel. They shouldn't be in that country. And the only one that can make that distinction is the Father. And that's precisely what he's going to do.
Amen.
So when Israel is trampled underfoot 3.5 years, the entire faction of people who are truly against Israel, right? They're going to be taken out. It's not God's let's say God's Jews won't be taken out. It's going to be the other people that seem like they're Jews, but they're not.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are going to be taken out. And then everybody else will be drawn out by that happening. Because once Jerusalem is under siege, right? And believe me, in the UN right now, it's under siege. That's what Macron is doing. See, they've already decided in the UN that Jerusalem is a world property, not an Israel
That's
property.
not right. That's not good.
That's why Trump, when Trump came in, he said that the capital of Israel was Jerusalem, and the entire world erupted. And since that time, they have set forth UN policies that state otherwise. So they're going to do what they do by force. We're in the moment right now where these things are starting to come about. They're starting to prevail.
Right.
And as that happens, there will be, everything will erupt all at once, it seems.
Amen. Mike, let me ask a question. Let's move over to the United States for a moment. There's a lot in the news about the auto pen. Whether President Biden really was signing anything at all. How long did this go on? We were told maybe 6 months, but now we're hearing this could have been almost a whole term. And I'm getting some information that possible Obama was really just 2 miles down the road from the White House, that maybe he was calling the shots, and that some of the White House staff and surrogates were in there signing the auto pen. Is there any information that you've heard, anything like that? Is that just
yeah, but nobody would like it. It's not, what I have is not, it's not hearsay, but nobody would like it because it likely won't fit their, it won't fit what people expect. Let's just say that the folks that were guiding Biden were with Biden the entire time.
Okay.
Let's just say that.
Okay.
They were right there. Nobody external was doing this. Nobody external. In fact, the powerhouse is still there. People just don't know where to look. They keep naming, these outside elements that I know for a fact have been shut out. There are certain people that have been shut out.
Yeah.
They've been totally shut out inside inside the Democratic Party right now. That people, they see them all, they see these folks from time to time. Those are the powerhouses. They never left Washington.
Wow.
Let's put it that way. So
deep state.
I know it doesn't really fit people's paradigm, but there's a powerhouse in Washington right now. They never left. They're still there.
They're not leaving.
I'm telling you, they hold the power. They hold the power.
Are they the bureaucrats or the deep state that are pretty well in position?
Whatever you want to call them, they have been calling the shots. They have been calling the shots. And when Biden was in there, right, they were the safeties, just in case he could not execute what they told him to. They were the safeties, but they were always there. They were always there.
You hear the term, Mike, the Illuminati, or, like maybe just 12 or 13 families that could be actually running this whole, not only this country, but maybe even the world. And there's been some research on that. Any thoughts you may have on that?
Well, so long as here's part of this big delusion here on this planet is this: people truly believe that money is real. Money is not real. It's not real.
Okay.
Money is not real. Money is nothing more than a control system. That's all it is.
Okay.
And those who control the money, right, they're also going to guide mankind.
Yeah.
That's why wars are fought, because of them. And not everybody is in control of that money. It's only a few families.
Mm-hmm.
They were from the beginning. They are now. And but people believe in money. It's just like a person sits at home and they say, I can't make a difference because it's just me. No, it isn't just you, right? If one person woke up and said, you know what, I think I'm going to take the day off. And they called their neighbor, and their neighbor said the same thing. Then they kept calling, right? And that whole day, everybody took the day off. Then we find out who has the power. But so long as they can manipulate people or fool people into believing they have no power, then guess what? They're not going to exercise any power, and these control systems will work. So then you have a few people who govern how money works. Also, this is key. If I were to rule this world, then I would be the expert of my own system, and I would not let anybody know the entirety of the system.
I see.
Okay, they would just know bits and pieces. They would know what they need to know so they can function and operate. They would operate by my rules, right? And I could just sit back and, everybody would be my subjects and I could do whatever I want. You also have to remember these guys do not think like you and I do, or the average person on the street. They don't think like that. They're not educated by the same institutions that the average person is. They're not. And they're taught that people are subjects. That's what they're taught. They're also taught that they're of ancient lineage. They're taught that way.
Wow.
So they're raised up in a way with the mind of an emperor.
Yeah.
That's how they're raised. And so they actually believe that. So yes, they get into the weird stuff, right? That will be your lower tier people. The higher tier people they make all the rules, they call the shots, and they enforce things in a specific way. And everything is going according to their plans, sadly.
Well,
because people believe, if people would stop believing what they're being, shown, I'll say, they do so much better. Let me give you a small example. Movies, right?
Yep.
Believe it or not, everything you see becomes a part of your reality, right?
Okay.
So that means you will utilize what you see and hear to reference your interactions with everybody else, which is why everybody has some sort of mimicry of somebody else. Nobody is really original, right? They're not original. They utilize things that they like from somebody else. So you have seed planters who come up with these new things, but they control the media, they control the movies, and movies are extremely important.
Yeah.
Do you not know that movies are the most important thing on planet Earth right now? Movies are.
Is it because of
not drama,
predictive programming?
Well, think of it. Let me give you one little example. Suppose somebody, ran up to you and they said, "Pastor Paul, the Blob is real," right?
Yeah.
You remember that movie, The Blob?
I remember
right?
The Blob, yes.
You start laughing. You say, "Okay, let's sit you down and get you something cool to drink. You're having something's going on, right?"
Right.
That's what you would say.
Yeah.
But the movie came out a long time ago. Did you know that movie is based upon something that was very unfortunate?
No. What? I know.
Yes, a lot of people don't know. When something happens in this world, the best cover-up is a movie.
So that you can change the narrative. Change a narrative.
You have the people become the guards of the gates of belief by social pressure. People will, if they put a movie out and people start, that was a pretty good movie, but it was a movie, and anybody comes out and says the Blob is real, society will come down on that person and say, "No, it isn't. Stop believing stupid things," or something like that.
Wow.
People enforce what they have no idea about. Now, the backstory to that movie was from a bunch of police reports and about 1,300 people who died from things that fell from space.
What?
Yes.
Wait, things?
That's what really happened.
I mean,
blobs. Blobs that look like the description of these blobs. It looked like a piece of gelatin, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with the antenna on a moth. It was full of those, like the antenna from a moth. And evidently they were quite toxic. And they would just evaporate right in front of your face if they were when you try to do something with them. The color of them was white and pink. White and pink.
So
that was the color of them.
Okay, now
They
were
turned
they
out to be
big?
quite lethal.
It wasn't a big blobs. I mean, they were little blobs, right? Coming down, just.
And they were different sizes, because you had some that were the size of, one was the size of a police car. One was the size of one was the size of a bush or something like that. Yeah, so they were different sizes, but it was based on something real.
I mean, this is like gelatin falling from the sky. I mean, a big.
Yeah, it was not good. It wasn't good. But you have these movies. I guess the point is, these movies become, when people see these movies, then they become the guards of reality.
Okay.
And without knowing, people have become guards on newer generations to tell them what does not exist. And it's a very simple ideology behind telling somebody what does not exist. In order to tell somebody what does not exist, you must first know everything that does exist. Well, we know no one qualifies in that area, right? So, to be honest with you, a lot of things that you see in movies are inspired by truth.
I believe
and
that.
The comical movies cover up the worst incidences. So there you are. So how do you fight something like that? You can't. You can't. People take up the mantle of defense of the topics these families, right, instigate, or they become the, guards of reality, and they enforce their beliefs upon other generations. You can't fight something like that.
No, and so in other words, the truth can be twisted, it can be massaged, it can be glamorized, and it's a way to distort what might really be happening, and then the people, you're saying, become the protectors of the story.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the bottomless pit.
Yeah,
when that bottomless pit is fully exposed, no one, their jaws are going to drop. Their faces are going to turn white, their hair gray, because they never thought they would ever face anything in reality like that. They have no idea what they've been protected from, but that's what these people do.
Mike, this is a little off the topic, but I can't take it. I have to ask this. Kim Jong-un launched a new warship and it capsized. Can you? His boat don't float. I mean, can you help me understand that one?
Well, that was terrible with him. Well, that's terrible.
That's a bad deal.
Well, that's a good thing, though. That's a good thing, because I'll tell you something. Right now. He would not hesitate to launch a nuclear weapon.
No, you're right.
He would not. He does not like America.
No.
He's already tried to launch nuclear weapons at us before. It just didn't work out. And I'm telling you something real. Kim Jong-un has tried this before and it didn't work. So that's nothing but God's intervention right there. Because if he gets a working type of missile with multiple warheads, he's not going to hesitate to utilize it.
Yeah, we don't want that.
At the behest of some of his, and that time is coming to where he will launch multiple projectiles by order of some of those factions in the Middle East. My opinion is this, and I take this from the Bible, of course, that there's going to come a time when all these countries are going to coordinate their efforts, and all at one time they will attack. And that time is soon. Why? Because all these talks are stopped. These guys are developing weapons you wouldn't believe. Every day we do not intervene is a day they complete the inevitable. Yeah. Every single day they're catching up, Pastor Paul. You're looking, if they were to continue and no one interrupted what they were doing, we don't have but about, I'd say, a generous estimate would be about 4 months until they're capable of unifying an assault upon the USA and Israel effectively.
So when we say the midnight hour is approaching, it's really the day of a judgment day, or a day of a severe threat.
It's there are troubles that a person just would not. They're not told about it. It's not published. so it doesn't enter into the mind. It's probably best that way. But for example, before the day of the Lord comes,
Okay.
before Christ arrives,
Yes.
there are going to be large scale troubles all over the earth. Right? The earth is going to be in trouble. And then it says, then we'll see the sign of the coming of the Son of Man.
Amen.
But after, nations are in distress with perplexity.
Amen.
After those things, which means for those war type people that are in the world, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
The Lord's not going after. He already said that. He said he's not going to punish the meek of the earth, the humble of the earth, those who stay true to the faith. The day of the Lord is a day of his vengeance, a day of his wrath. Nobody who belongs to Christ is appointed to the wrath of God. Therefore, they won't do that. They'll be hid in the Lord's safety at that time. But the rest of the world is going to undergo something they truly don't understand, and it involves everything on all fronts. It's just so difficult to see, but it's built up to a point right now. It's about to burst, like a match is about to be lit. Kind of like these storms that are about to hit America.
Yeah, let's talk about
that. Are about to hit Mexico. They had last year we talked about hurricanes or hypercanes, right?
Yes.
And they're trying very hard not to call it a hypercane. But do you know I saw the word hypercane placed? It's on the table. They may have to use it because wind speeds, they're going to have to recalculate and put new formulas in those simulations to come up with more accurate and predictive models of what's happening. They've gotten pretty good with hurricanes, but the ocean temperatures are throwing everything off. And with the expectation of a few volcanic eruptions under the ocean, that's only going to exacerbate the issue of changing these formulas. So we're getting into something. And fires.
Yeah, they're everywhere, and they're getting worse.
The dryness is coming in a few places. Lightning is going to become it's a big problem.
Yep.
And people are crazy for the most part. A lot of places they're going to start fires. Some of these people are going to start fires because they hate this country, and so we're going to have fires and floods all over the place. But the winds are going to be deadly. The winds are going to be atrocious. On the oceans as well, they're going to be atrocious. That in combination with other things, but the weather phenomena, Pastor Paul, is beginning to increase at a brand new scale of some sort of exponential outburst of what's happening. Yeah, they're going to have to come up with quite a few terms.
NOAA is predicting a bad year. 19 named storms they believe will happen. They think there will be at least somewhere between 3 to 5 hurricanes that would be 3, 4, or 5 category. They say it's due to the warmth of the ocean and the change of the wind speed.
Yeah.
And you've been talking about this for a long time, to change the wind
speed. Absolutely. And now we're here. Well, kind of like that nor'easter we just had, right?
Yeah.
Nobody talks about a nor'easter in the month of May, but we had one,
It's crazy.
And
look at the tornadoes. I mean, we had so many tornadoes day after day after day. Yeah. What about Italy? What about Italy? Because there is, I was watching this, I believe it was yesterday, but there's been a ton of seismic activity on that underwater volcano that they say if that thing goes, there's no more Italy. I mean, literally saying there would be no more Italy.
No, there won't be any more. And it's unfortunate, Pastor Paul, because with something like that, right, you can't quite predict the exact moment it's going to happen. So they have evacuation orders. Certain places have been evacuated.
Okay.
Other places, it's being determined should they be evacuated. They had to hurry up and get a pope in there because a pope is being consulted on this spiritually. He has some major decisions to make.
Wow.
This will affect the entire globe if it goes, and not just Italy, but the entire globe. It could also offset the water levels all around the earth. when
What?
it goes.
Really?
So if that goes, all the water levels around the earth are going to be shuffled. Oh yeah,
Would that
it will
would
cause.
that cause a tilt of the earth? I mean,
It could really increase the tilt of the earth. We already have a tilt. We already
yeah.
have the equator moving. That's been confirmed, and so any type of water distribution like that, it is the element that could tilt the earth big time. Water can do that. Displacement of water can do
Yeah.
that. And if that goes, it will most certainly disrupt everything that we do.
Will it?
Everything.
Will it create a long-term winter
Northern
environment?
hemisphere, the northern hemisphere will be affected for years to come. The USA will likely have about 2 to 9 inches of ash fall all over the place, and
Well, the crops
that will
won't.
be that.
The crops
That'll be
won't
no, they
grow.
won't grow. They won't grow, and there'll be a permanent haze for about 5 or 6 years over the northern hemisphere, which means everybody will try to escape to South America.
Millions will
They'll
die.
try to go to South America.
Millions, multiple million.
That will change. That will change a lot. And you know what the bad part is? Can't be Flagria or Flagreri. That's one.
Yeah.
But there are some other ones that could go. Right. There's some ocean-borne super volcanoes that could also go, and there would be a pyroclastic flow that would come from the ocean.
Wow.
In a radius of sorts to all areas. It could do the exact same thing. And so, that's just the time we're living in. And so long as the sun remains volatile and it continues to alter what the Earth and other planets are doing, this is our immediate possibility.
Okay, let's talk about the Earth, the sun, and other planets are doing. So there's got to be, and in this webinar, there's some good discussion about that from 4 or 5 of you guys that talk about it. Maybe not the whole presentation, but a lot of it. Gil Brazard gets into it real heavy, and so some of the others. But let me ask you. I mean, you do bring up some things that I'd never heard of before in this webinar. Certainly, you're concerned that the heavens are we going to experience something we've never experienced before, or is it just reoccurring again after thousands of years?
I think it's both. I think it's cyclical, number one.
Okay.
But there are some new things. In the Bible, it says that in the book of Matthew, it says it'll be the worst time that ever was since the earth was or will be again.
Yes.
So that means it's not comparable to anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not comparable to anything. So we're about to go through something no one is. In fact, if it's going to be the worst thing that ever was since the earth was made, then the flood does not compare to it.
This is worse than the flood. Yes.
That's right. The flood is only an example of man's ignorance when he continues to normalize events to live his life. Right? No matter what happens, mankind will say, oh, well, that's normal. Oh, well, that's normal. All the earthquakes we're having, they're normal.
No.
All the floods we're having, they're normal.
No.
All the tornadoes, they're normal. That's what mankind does. They normalize things so they can go have a drink. But this time, there are going to be some final things that come upon us. I don't believe anybody has faced what we're about to face.
Yeah, Jesus does say that in Matthew 24 when he says there'll be a time such as that has never been before nor ever will be.
That's right.
And he talks because they ask him, can you tell us the sign of your coming, the end of the world? And he goes into a lot of things, but that's one he specifically says. He says in Luke that the heavens will be shaken. Okay, that's something. I mean, when that's something, it takes a lot to shake the entire heavens.
That's right. And I believe that means the current stability of the heavens is not going to be there.
Okay.
That means right now the heavens are not shaken, right? The powers of the heavens are not shaken. They're stable. So if the powers of the heavens are shaken, everything is going out of whack.
Yes.
I also believe that the earth is not going to keep its orbit. I don't believe that. I know it would be nice if it would. I don't believe it will. In fact, I'm not the only one that is thinking about that either. And in simulations on some of these more powerful computer systems, the Earth does not keep its orbit. Even if we weren't to incur extra things, the way things are going right now, the Earth is not going to keep its orbit. Believe it or not, the orbit of the Earth has been changing over time, period. It's been changing.
I mean, well, if the Earth was to completely lose its orbit,
it would look like the heavens are dancing.
Well, wouldn't it also be the end of time? I mean, end of Earth existence?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
In fact, the area that we are in right now, the Goldilocks zone, they call it, right?
Yeah.
It extends for a pretty good period. Now, it would cause extreme temperatures.
That's what I'm thinking.
It would change the way the light looks. We'd be exposed to different types of gases and everything else. The Earth would still, people would still exist, but life will be different here on this Earth. And that could literally happen. See, there could be, of course, a number of events that can cause that to happen in less than a week. Right? In less than 1 week, the Earth could be thrown out of its current orbit into something else. But as we have some weird gravitational force pulling on the solar system, we're not going to keep our orbit anyway. At some point, it will begin to destabilize the orbit of the sun, or our orbit around the sun, right? It'll destabilize that. Another force acting on the Earth is going to destabilize its current orbit. Simple and plain. It will tug at us on a very specific side at a certain time of the year. It will tug at us, and so much for our orbit, right? Doesn't mean we're all going to die. It just means we're going to have some massive changes. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Massive changes, and quick. Like for example, the earthquake in the Bible that moves every island and mountain out of its place.
Yes.
Okay, that's the entire Earth shifting, right? That's what that is. That's the entire Earth shifting. So, my goodness. So we're going to see it. It's going to happen. It's coming.
We got planes falling out of the sky. All kinds of things are happening, obviously. Let me ask you a question. Putin and Trump had a phone call. I think it might have went 2.5 hours. That's what we're hearing. Trump came out of that call with, very positive. He thinks there's something going to shake loose. But what's your thoughts on this?
That'll be the 10th time.
Yeah,
it'll be the 10th time.
A conversation.
Putin has a habit of saying one thing and doing something totally different. Everybody should keep in mind, he told the world, he said, listen, we have nothing to do with the build up here at the border. It's not our stuff, right? That's how he talks.
Yeah.
So he had nothing to do with whatever was going on. And people were like, well, he's built up a lot of machinery right there. For what reason? He says, well, I'm not going to do it. It must be other people. He said, have you checked with, what did he say? Have you checked with, he said, he named some other country. He promised the world he would never invade Ukraine. And the next day he went into the Ukraine.
The very next day.
He sat there and promised the world on television and every avenue.
Very next day.
He would not invade the Ukraine. And the very next day he went right in there. And some of us knew he was going in there, regardless of what he said. That's how he is. Now, for a guy like that who's done this consistently, just what people have seen is one thing, but there have been times that Putin has promised people safety and their family safety, and the next day, them and their family were blown up.
Yep. Poisoned.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Frozen.
So when he sets his mind to something, nothing is going to change it. Right? Nothing we know about is going to change it unless the Lord changes it. But no person will do that. If he ever gives in to somebody's demand, some other country, some other ruler, right? He's already admitting to be subservient to whomever can change his plans. He's going to be deemed subservient to that person. That is not the way of a person who likes or who upholds the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Because ever since Chernobyl, many people have been disgruntled with the world, with the UN, and how they did Russia. And he's one of those people. He's kept power for a reason. And the reason is not to make friends with the USA. That's not why he kept power.
You know, he's poisoned people that opposition to him. He's imprisoned them. He's blew up their planes. You know, assassinated them. I don't know how many diplomats. There was a period of time there with every time I turned around, there was a Russian ambassador dying in somebody's, in somebody's embassy somewhere. I remember the guy who Vladimir thought he was going to do a coup on Putin and then turn the army around, and he said, "I'm sorry, I don't mean to do this." "Oh, don't worry, and the next thing you know, the guy's dead in Libya or somewhere. So, you know, I mean, to your point, when Putin decides you have to be exterminated, you will be exterminated. It's not a question of, well, maybe not. No, you'll be gone. And he uses the KGB type tactics to do it. So Trump's on the phone with him. And I believe Trump's a very smart guy. And he's talking to the man. And he gets told all this stuff and like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get together with Zelensky and all that. You know, and you and I both know he is not ever ready to sit down with Zelensky right now. He's going to take that country. I just, unless we stop him. And we're tired of the wars. We're tired of funding the wars. So what happens? What's really going to happen here is, do you predict Putin will take Ukraine in the next 24 months? What's your thoughts?
I believe talks will continue. Okay. He's not gonna stop until NATO is no longer at. If somebody can promise him that NATO will never be at his back door, right? Mm-hmm. He'd do it, but here's the problem. Somebody did promise him that. The USA did. Yes. And they reneged on that promise. And they did what they said they wouldn't do. So he's going to be hesitant in trusting anybody. Now, he has more of a favorable outlook towards Trump.
Yeah.
He does. But he does not trust the UN. He does not trust. He just doesn't trust people like that. And, you know, he has his own ideals about his nation, and he's going to go forward with it. The Ukraine is very important to Russia.
Absolutely.
Right? It's very important to Russia.
Well, okay. Is it as important to Russia as Taiwan is to China?
Yeah.
Do you feel like China is going to make a move on Taiwan maybe in the next?
They're not going to give the idea of Taiwan up. They're not going to do it. Never. They're not going to do it. So that's they're just not going to do that. And if you think about it, what these countries are doing is they're putting themselves together. See, they've been regulated so long, right, by an external police force, so to speak, that they're tired of someone else governing how they live their lives. And it's nothing more than their own internal nationalism, right? And so now they're saying, you know, this is ours. It was ours in the beginning, and we're going to make it whole. And this is their mindset. I do believe that's ultimately going to cause us a great deal of difficulty. It's also part of this dark kingdom that's rising, right? Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
people may want to get ready for that. Amen. Because they're going to see some things that they didn't really expect, or they did. You know, it's been certain subjects can be dragged out for so long you believe that they will never take place.
Yeah,
they live in a time where multiple things will take place.
Let's talk about the heavens, out of this world, because this webinar is tomorrow, and I got thinking about the sun. You've talked a lot about it. Something is the sun is doing things it's never done before. And there's a reason for this, Mike. Can you help us understand what should we anticipate with the sun? What are the external, literally, are we facing external dangers?
Yeah, I believe that's going to be evident too. You know, we're going to quickly move from talking about these subjects, and people are going to ask one question. How
Okay.
do I protect my family from
Yeah.
what's happening?
Yeah.
We're going to be in the middle of it, of the middle of the, things that are happening, and people are going to say, "What do I do to protect my family?" The sun, for example, its chemistry is changing. Right? They can note that by all the probes on there. It's affecting the entire solar system, but something is also affecting the sun and Jupiter, and at the same time. So they know there's an external influence upon this solar system, and it's pretty consistent as far as where its origin point is and how it affects everything. And those forces are becoming a bit more dramatic each month. Right? It used to be every 10 years they would see the differences. Then it went to every year they would see the differences. Now it's every month they can see the differences. And I believe that's part of a scalar type mathematics, where something or exponential, if you want to see it that way, things will happen faster and faster as these approaches of celestial objects takes place. I do believe we live in a binary. We have a binary system. I believe that. I believe that. Too many ancient people talked about things that are, they're not really popular to look into. But think about something. The ancients documented things just like we do today, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people documented things that don't make sense. Like they had details of Saturn. How can anybody have details of Saturn?
Before
But
telescopes.
they all said something, that Saturn was very close in our skies.
So did that?
They
mean,
also said that.
Did that mean the Earth had got out of orbit? Or
that means the planets were not in the arrangement they are in now, and that's also going to. There are a few papers that will be published this year that will also be inclusive in, educational literature coming up. But the planets were not always in this arrangement.
So,
right? So there are a few things that are coming out with. Unfortunately, when they find these facts out, nobody else finds them out till about 10 years later. And then they do it by way of publishing peer-reviewed papers first. And then they go through, different associations for print and books. Then everybody else finds out about it. So there are going to be lots of things uncovered. Right, as we learn more and more, we're starting to see a very different picture.
When you say the ancients, they literally documented. They drew pictures of some large.
They did,
and they mentioned. I know Nibiru is actually a word was used by them, but is that because they seen this thing? I mean, they had to have seen.
Well, of course they did. In fact, one of the most of the artifacts that are being found. Some of the buildings that were fortified, right? Mm-hmm. If you see a stone structure left, the same thing would happen today. If fire devoured the surface of the planet, the only thing that would be left of a house is the footer. You wouldn't see the plastic.
That's
you
true.
Would not see the metal. You would only see the footer, the stone. Right?
Yeah.
Same thing happened in the ancient world. Everything else was devoured. Right, many things were devoured, and the only thing that was left was stones. And so what they did do was they put a warning in the stones. And the pantheons, when they talk about all these different gods and certain religions, Stonehenge, all these different things, they point to a celestial calendar.
Yes.
They're telling people that there's an event we did not know about, but our fathers did, that came and took us by surprise. And they wanted their children's children to know it was coming back again. Just as we have the 4 seasons, we have bigger seasons that certainly do take effect. And they were warning us it's coming back again. They have dug down in the earth. You're looking at thousands of feet, right? How can they continue to find civilizations at 35,000
I'm glad you're bringing that up, because BP Earthwatch in the webinar, he actually shows us 5 different underground civilizations. Literally shows it to us. Because you can go down in them and they're still there. So
the
people
deeper you go, the more advanced they become.
Yeah. So they lived. Now, we talk about now that they're building underground cities so that they can survive the apocalypse. We know they're doing that. And we have a lot of different type technology for ventilation and genetically altered food, to grow with artificial suns. These people were under the ground in caves, but they had sophisticated ways to live. Can you talk about that? I mean, how in the world?
Well, plus, and they chose spots. Okay, you have to be pretty advanced to have an understanding that the best place to put an underground city is inside of a volcano. Right? Think about it. The magma eats up the chamber, right?
Yeah.
It solidifies the walls like glass, vitrification, and it leaves these large voids inside the earth where they build things. Yes, they have cities that now that people can go and look. They can't really go down there, but they can look and pass. Paul, when you go down there and look, as far as your eye can see, there are buildings. Right?
That's crazy, but I know it's true.
As far as your eyes can see, they have found caverns that are just. I mean, a person could live down there all their lives and never even desire to come topside. You can picture that being inhabited. It is an amazing look.
Then there's two questions for you. Number one, and BP actually shows us 5 different civilizations. Go back.
Begley Temple.
Yeah, and then there's 4 others over in Turkey. He shows us these 5 civilizations actually where they went down in them, and shows us how there's still tools down there that they used. Yeah. Okay, that's my first question. That's incredible.
And the ones, these ones that they have where people can actually go and see. Do you not know that even underneath them
is more,
or even more? Yep.
Now, my question to you is, how did they had to know that the only way they were going to survive was to go underground, and there's civilization.
Yes.
What was going on the top side that would cause a whole civilizations of people to have to go down that deep to live?
Same thing that's happening today. In fact, the exact same environmental issues we're facing today, they faced back then. The exact same ones, and it's already begun again. It's already started. But this time, people are not they're not spiritually mature enough in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
They're just, something has zapped their discernment, right? A lot of people in this day and age right now, people want proof. They have been duped and fooled and tricked so much.
Yes.
They need proof. Well, that's fine. But the problem is the people who have the proof are the crooked ones in the first place. And they're not giving up the proof. They're going to give you some false proof.
They're not going to tell us.
And so, that's right. And so, people have this eerie type of sensation within them. They know something is around the corner. They don't know what's around the corner, right? Yeah. And it eats it every day. I guarantee they wake up, and if they try to ignore their devices, they say, well, let me go check the news just to see what has taken place, because I think something is about to take place. I don't know what it is, but let me check so I can go throughout my day. And that is a prophecy within itself, that people would do that. That's an actual prophecy that people would do that. Meaning that God gave them discernment.
Yeah.
But you have elements of evil in this world that attempt to misdirect your discernment into other areas. But people are going to soon, God will break them free. I believe this is why people are starting to see these more fantastic things. To a person in the world, if they see a UAP, they go nuts thinking the ET is real, right? That they're going to have lunch with them and go to another planet and find out they're their cousins and have a family reunion. But for a believer who sees a UAP, they have an understanding of history in the Bible. They have an understanding of God's angels or the sons of God. They have an understanding of supernatural things. So they're not going to see it the same way the world does. The world will interpret that one way and worship the thing, right? Or really like it, or whatever they do. But a Christian will say, no, these are supernatural things becoming normal. These marks of time
Okay.
in the Father's timeline here, because the world at a certain point, if you notice in Scripture, Pastor Paul, they did not refute anything supernatural. They did
No,
not.
no, no, no.
Right? It's kind of like Sodom and Gomorrah. Before they were totally, absolutely, 100% obliterated, they saw God's angels and they had weird desires for
Yes.
God's angels. Now they saw that illumination effect, or that supernatural effect. They didn't care about that. They were so used to supernatural things, they became twisted with the supernatural. And right now, you have people out there who have supernatural encounters, and they invite entities into their lives. They're starting to do this more and more.
Yes.
And they're getting used to this supernatural element. This has happened historically, even back in the old days. It has happened historically, right before the manifestation of many, supernatural things. Now, God's children, they're gonna challenge every supernatural thing, right, to see if they serve the Lord or not. The world can't do that. They don't know how to do that. The truth is not in them, it's in us. So it'll wake us up. My point is, when these supernatural things begin to manifest, those who truly belong to Christ, they're going to wake up. They're going to say, oops, well, let me wake up. The supernatural thing is real. I knew it. I was just asleep a little bit, but I'm awake now, and
Right.
they'll get on their toes and be okay. The other people will not, is going to seal their fate.
Okay. Now, Elisha saw Elijah go up in a chariot of fire. Okay. Ezekiel saw a wheel inside of a wheel. Supernatural things. Let me ask you a question. Ryan Wood is one of our speakers, and he's a UFOologist. His father worked for the federal government in intelligence, CIA. They were involved in a lot of UAP crashes.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then these crashes were kind of covered up in documentation. His father found canisters because his that were sent to be developed in a, back, you take the film and you develop it in the dark room.
Right.
In these canisters were documents with what they call Majestic 12. These were secret documents that were to help cover up the crashes. Ryan himself, in 40 years, said he has investigated 105 unexplained crashes, including bodies that were found. Is this part, when you hear these things, when people hear these things, I'm not stunned when I hear of Elijah going up in a chariot of fire, when I hear of the wheel inside of a wheel by Ezekiel. So should we be like, maybe listen a little bit? Is there something there that's supernaturally, whether it's good or bad, being played out in front of us?
Sure it is. And sometimes you have to listen. I listen with a spiritual ear.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
I've learned my lesson. I'm not one of those who will say something does not exist. Right. And that was the worst mistake of my life when I did that. But I think it's good for people to listen with a spiritual ear. In other words, a person, just like in the Proverbs, a person who belongs to the Father, a wise man, it says, is slow to speak, quick to listen.
Amen.
He hears all things, but he relies upon the word of God. It's just like I can hear all things, and I do hear all things. My reliance is on the word of God, but I'll tell you something. God put the truth in a donkey. Right,
that's true.
He put the truth in a the donkey back in the past, and other people had the truth in them also. If we disregard things because we think it's foolishness, right? And again, I'll just caution people before they say anything is foolishness. They're going to have a perfect understanding of why, or what is real around it. Because people, Pastor, the Bible's not kidding when it says men's hearts are going to fail them for fear, for looking after those things which are coming upon the earth. And there have been, this UFO subject, why is it being suppressed even now?
That's what I'm wondering.
Why?
Right?
People thought the truth was coming out. I told them, no, it's going to be the contrary. They're never going to tell you that they can't. I know they can't. there are certain military bases which are there for a reason. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And why, there are hospital staff that outnumber, in a lot of cases, general staff on every single military base. And lots of people don't know that until they start looking into it and say, wait a minute, what is all this for? You have had soldiers who have stumbled upon things and they knew they weren't supposed to, right? Because the soldier always knows when something is above their pay grade to back off and go the other way. Mankind knows just about everything on this earth, right? And they have people who have dealt with just about everything on this earth. And I do believe that our Father has not allowed a reveal of this in full yet, because in truth, we're so unbelieving in certain things, right? Pastor Paul, that if we were to see it, our lives would be ruined.
We'd fall dead. Some
ruined,
people, or
I mean ruined.
We might fall dead if we saw some of this, right?
There have been people who have fallen dead who have seen lesser.
I mean, there's soldiers in the caves in Iraq, or seen things in the mountains of Afghanistan.
And a giant is minimal. That is minimal. Pastor Paul, say it again. There are certain shapes of things that if you never saw the thing but saw the shape of the thing, you'd be disturbed for life. There's a reason that people, if they see something shaped like a humanoid, but they see the silhouette, something goes off inside them that will cause the greatest amount of fear. That's a mechanism of something that we've all had to deal with, that humanity had to deal with a long time ago. And they have forgotten. They try to be slick and take out the writings of Jasher and some other books. Of course, thank God for the books that we do have. But when they took Enoch and all these other books out, the reason why is because it spoke against government. It told Enoch's parable tells of the time we live in now. It tells of the governmental system we have right now. The parable, when it's mentioning all the mules and the birds and the this and that and the other and the 70 shepherds, it's talking about what we deal with right now and how mankind has become so blind that when these things come forward, when the troop that's in the earth right now comes forward, people will have no defense.
That's great. A troop that comes forth from the earth.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Apollyon.
An army that nobody understands.
The bottomless pit. It's going to be releasing something so horrific that, dark. It's like thick as smoke. It's dangerous.
Yeah, it's not. This isn't a statement. I know a lot of people would love that to be helicopters, Black Hawks, or Apaches or something like that.
It's not.
But you have people who have seen the contrary. And once you cannot unsee what you have seen.
Wow.
Right? You can't do that.
Wow.
And once you have seen it, everything becomes so clear that the most hardened skeptic and the worst devil-worshipping person out there would become a saint if they were introduced to that. They would no longer be an expert on what does not exist. They would have to put their lives back together. And the closest information that we have to what's real on this earth already is the Bible, are these, even like the book of Enoch and those things, right?
Yeah.
I'll say this with that subject, that if people knew what the Lord has been protecting them from, they would never say, why has he left me alone? They'd never say that.
Yeah.
They would never say that. They never say that.
Now, you know how they're very protective of some of these military installations. Rex Bear, and in this webinar, he has film. He has it. I've watched it when we did his presentation. He went to Area 51, and he went to the front gate. That's one thing. But he had some contacts with some people, including a rancher that owns about 1,000 acres right up next to Area 51's property. He went to 2 secret back gates. And when he got to them, it wasn't long. An F-15, 2 of them, 2 F-15 fighter jets buzzed them. And they didn't buzz them once, they buzzed them twice. They were sending a clear message. You don't need to, you have no business here. So they can't even see the base because there's mountains really around it. You can't see, you can see the lights from it like the glow of the lights, but
Yeah.
you can't get in there. You're not what is hidden in there? What is so important that nobody, not even politicians, not even former presidents can get in this place? What's in there, Mike? What's in there?
First of all, I'm glad you said that, because a president does not have the clearance you think he does.
Yeah.
He does not.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He does not. But think of it this way: if a president cannot know everything, because it's important that a president not lie, especially to his allies, right? So if somebody were to ask a president a question, he's got to be able to say, I don't know, or he's got to be able to say no, and still be telling the truth. Why? Because people actually do have discernment, which is why they get innocent people to present terrible things. Right? If you can get an innocent person to believe in a terrible thing, that you can put that person out in front of Christians, and the Christians won't say a word because they know discernment. They can tell when somebody's being deceitful or not. Right?
Right.
Having said that, in Area 51, they're not going to let everybody see all things that happen in Area 51, right, or S4, whatever you want to call it, Groom Lake, places like that. That because of discernment of the enemy, right? Not only can we know when a person is being deceitful or not, but our enemies can too.
I see.
And keep in mind, we develop stealth equipment there. Now, any military base has multiple operations. So developing stealth aircraft and things of that nature, that's only one. But I'll tell you something. I'll ask you a question.
Okay.
Why did Boeing, right? Why did Boeing, why did Lockheed and all these different places, why did they finally admit that they back engineered a lot of their technology? They finally admitted that. Now, they didn't come on television and do it. They didn't go out to the media and do it. They did this on paper, on disclosed paperwork.
Yeah, in the paper.
Right? So they admitted that they back engineered these things. They admitted that they gave devices to the universities of things that mankind did not build. Right. There's another base. While everybody's looking at Area 51, I can tell you right now that's not the place. It's not the interesting
somewhere else
place,
more
right?
interesting.
Yeah, you need something that has the word Doug in it. You need to go to the place that has Doug in it. I'm telling you, the unbelievable things happen there, including Earth-based weapons. Right. Now, listen, when I say Earth-based weapons, imagine a beam firing. And when it fires, it smells like, you know how when electricity has fried a wire or something like that? That's what you smell for about 200-300 miles.
Wow,
okay?
what?
So
200 or 300 miles?
That's right. This is a beam that can fire straight up that makes no noise, that will burst every cloud it fires up through and light up the atmosphere as it does so, and it can go deep out into space. You're talking about a beam that can could reach another planet, right? That's a powerful, powerful beam. It is so strong that they cannot fire this thing back to back because it would put a hole in our atmosphere so big that it would take years to repair. Right?
This is crazy.
They can't do that. But they have that. There are weapons in the poles that are unbelievable. See, what people fail to realize is if you have a radio strong enough to send communications into deep space in an instant and ride them on the back of lasers, that's actually a weapon, is it not?
Wow.
That's how things are hidden. Like CERN. CERN is a particle, collider.
Yeah.
They got the world's biggest particle collider. But those who know what CERN actually is, they know that CERN is a particle accelerator.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
AKA rifle. How about that? So this is how things are done in this world. That's how they're done.
Rifle.
That's right. It's a particle beam weapon.
So it's
if you can fire a particle at the almost speed of
light,
right? or speed of light,
right?
You have a particle beam weapon.
Yeah, so it's
That's
a weapon.
What you have.
So it's
you
not
can perfectly direct around corners and everything else.
Yeah, they can.
That's what you have.
So it's not just that they're colliding protons to find the God particle or to turn lead into gold. This is a high-powered, off the chain weapon that's beyond our comprehension.
Yeah, let me give you the case in point. A lot of
Okay.
devices that we use today are byproducts of devices made by NASA for the space program, right?
Yeah.
Velcro, for example, right? Byproduct. Elmer's glue, byproduct. The present day microchip, byproduct, right? The Walkman, byproduct. Remember Walkmans?
Yeah, I
Tape
remember.
players,
Oh, yeah.
byproducts.
Yep.
A lot of people may not know this, but back during the Apollo missions, do you know they had HD TV with I think it was 7,500 lines of resolution?
No.
Right? So they had high definition film. We deal with that digitally today, but that's a byproduct of what they had a long time ago. These things are byproducts. So what I'm telling you is when they develop technology, right, right now they talk openly about the byproduct as though that's what it is. No, it's a lot more than that. Right?
Yeah.
They develop things and they let the public know about the byproduct of these things.
Yeah.
Right? Like CERN, particle collision. Why would a bunch of people put that much money into particle collision that produces zip zero?
They wouldn't.
Why?
They wouldn't.
That's right, they wouldn't. So you know that they have perfected the process of sending that particle down a tube. Anybody who does this has made a weapon that nobody else can compete with.
Yep. Powerful. Mike, okay. I mean, all right. So you're giving me so many reasons. That's kind of why we did this webinar is that we wanted to reach into the heavens, out of this world. We wanted to reach into the world. We wanted to find out the technologies and the weaponries and the threat to humanity and the cyclical events that the earth is facing. The ancients knew about it, the the tablets, all the different things. And so ultimately, so that people's knowledge would be increased, but that they would turn, no matter what it is we face, we turn to the Lord, that we look to God, the creator of all things, including technologies. He is the creator of everything. And I think the devil gets too much credit. I really do. He gets too much credit. I think God's on top.
He is.
Mike,
He is.
Thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for your presentation in this webinar. It's phenomenal. It's fascinating. And just thank you for telling us the truth and being here for us. I appreciate it.
Well, Pastor Paul, it's always an honor. God bless you.
The honor's mine. Always. God bless.
All right. All right.